Prophecology. It's more than a philosophy, more than a psychology, more than just an ecology, bigger than biology, larger than anthropology, brushes against astrology. That's prophecology.
All right, God bless you. Today we have Dr. Arthur Davison, and he is a physician. Dr. Davis, tell us what kind of doctor you are.
I'm an anesthesiologist, but I also do some anti-aging medicine, and I treat mental health issues, things like medication-resistant depression, bipolar disease, PTSD. Alcohol, substance abuse, and chronic pain where no one else can help you. That's sort of a summary of my practice.
All right, great. Now, we've been coming to you for years, and I mean, you've helped us with the anti-aging. How important is anti-aging for today?
We can remember science can get you to 100 to 110 years in the next 20 to 30 years. However, you have to do your part now. And the cornerstone is diet and exercise and mental health. And those are all three things that can be attained today.
Diet, exercise, and mental health. Wow. Professor, what do you think about that? Diet, exercise, and mental health, Dr. Davison is saying.
You know, I think that's very powerful because once we combine those ingredients, if I could say that, I mean, it brings about wholeness. Because what is a mind without having the body? You know, the body may be healthy, but the mind might not. And the mind might be healthy, but the body might not. So you need those things to bring about wholeness.
Wow. Mental health,
diet
and exercise. Mental health, diet, and exercise. So let's talk for a moment about the pandemic, because that's on a lot of people's mind. When this pandemic happened, COVID-19, I know I was in your office that morning when the news was just starting to come out, and you told us about the ginger, and we were doing the ginger and the cinnamon. And thank you. We introduced it to the church, and we introduced it to them, and people was going out getting roots of ginger and, you know, boiling it in the pot. How did you come to discover that ginger was such a healing component?
Well, you know, it's really just by accident. I mean, there's no substitute for getting vaccinated. Let me say that right now. But ginger has so many healing properties, especially in terms of cancer, the colon, skin, hormones. It does so many things. It's sort of something that's foundational. I believe in people doing juicing, apple, beets, carrots, ABCs, apple, beets, and apples, beets, carrots, and then ginger shots throughout the week.
Oh, wait a minute. Well, let me get that. Apple,
ABCs.
honey, right there.
ABCs.
Your ABCs, your apple, beets,
and carrots.
Honey, you don't like beets, though.
Yes, I do.
You like beets now?
Because remember, I was always anemic, and one of the things with beets, I would drink that, just get fresh beets and juice it, and I did that for years in my 20s, late 20s and 30s.
Okay, I got it mixed up with okra.
Okra, no, that's a no-no.
So, okra is good for you, Elder Valina.
You said Oprah, sorry.
Okra.
Oh,
Family loves okra.
Yeah.
okay.
My dad used to love it.
Okay, well, the doctors are prescribing for you okra today.
No, it's apple, beets, and carrots, and ginger.
ABCs.
ABCs.
So apple, beets, carrots, and ginger.
Ginger, that you want to do the little ginger in there, but you want to do the ginger shots. This combination, I'm not going to sit here as a physician and say that there's a cure for cancer. I'd never say that. But you have it and take this with the traditional standard care of medicine for these diseases. They appear to do better overall. I mean, there's lots of anecdotal cases I can talk about, but again, no cure, but it improves your chance to beat the disease.
Improve your chance. So if people took on ginger shots every day, took on putting apple, beets, and carrots along with going through this pandemic, this can help
Oh my God,
probably
yes.
Build the immune system.
build up the immune system.
Absolutely.
How important is our immune system in this kind of pandemic?
Well, if you look at the colon, the Myers patches, which are on the outside of the colon, these are, what am I thinking of? Collections of our immune system. I'm going to guess, I don't remember the medical school number, but probably 60% of your immune system exists around your colon, in these lymph nodes. And the diet, if you get the flu, if you get a cold, if you get an infection, having an immune system that's working at its optimum rate can help you fight off this awful virus.
Wow. Now, talking about the immune system, let's talk for a moment about the importance of vitamin D. And I know you've gone through this with me about vitamin D, and want those of you to listen out here very closely. And I ran across this information some years ago when I was reading a book because it was a course I was taking, and they had did some studies, I believe it was in Harvard, where they was wondering why cancers and certain diseases was running so rampant in African Americans, and come to find out when they tested, they found something common is that African Americans had low vitamin D, and therefore certain diseases was very aggressive in them. And then I was surprised when I spoke with another physician about what was happening in this pandemic, that it was shocking what they were saying, the data was saying about people that had high levels of vitamin D that seemingly fared out a little better than those that had low vitamin D that really felt the effects. Tell us, number one, what is vitamin D?
Vitamin D is more of a hormone than a vitamin.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's important in terms of cancer, preventing those hard cancers, the firm ones, which are the ones that are most aggressive. But it's also important in terms of mental health. It's important in terms of colon health. There's a shopping list of things that...
Hold on, you said, you mean vitamin D supports mental health?
Absolutely. If you have low vitamin D, you're more susceptible to depression.
Okay.
Let's talk about numbers.
Okay.
You go to your doctor, and doctors are doing a wonderful job. I'm not critical of anyone, but when they say your vitamin D is normal, and I think 3 is the minimum of 3, that just means you're not symptomatic. But for optimum health, you have to have your vitamin D between 50 and 80. That's where you want for optimal health. Now, how do you calculate how much vitamin D you need on a daily basis? For every 10 units from like 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60, depending on how low you are, you take 1,000 units for every 10 units a day to get where you want to be. So if you're 20 and you want to get to 50, you take a minimum of 33,000 a day. If you want to get to 80, which is for optimum health, you'll take 5,000 units a day. That's a rough way of determining how much vitamin D you
Okay,
take
so
a day.
give that calculation again.
Okay.
So if you, whatever the difference is, if your vitamin D is, if you need to get it up 30 points or 30, or get it up, you take how many units?
Multiply that times 100, and you're there.
Multiply that by 100. Wow, that's good. Let's give that a hand.
Thank you.
I mean, that's really good to hear. I mean, that's really something. Uncle Brad, what did you think about that? Have you ever had your vitamin D checked out?
Recently, I had my vitamin D checked out, and it was I don't remember the exact numbers, but I know it was in the normal range, but it wasn't high like it should be. It wasn't on that upper end, and so that's why I'm grateful that we were able to get the shot today, so that because I want my numbers to go up, especially in vitamin D. With this next wave of this pandemic, who knows what's coming? You really have to be prepared.
Yeah, and then y'all are school teachers, so y'all are working in the public.
Working in the schools,
Yes.
and at some point there will be. They haven't mandated everybody to be vaccinated, but I think it's coming because there's
Yes.
no other way to have any kind of consistent protection, and we are still one of the few countries that never shut down the whole country. That's why we're having the issues we're having. We didn't shut down. Like China, they shut down, and they were doing steam in your nose 3 times a day, and that's how they shut it down in their country. But the whole country shut down. We never did.
Yeah, very interesting. So with the vitamin D helps with mental health.
Oh
with
my God,
depression,
yes.
with mental health.
Yep.
It helps with bone density as well.
Yes. Yep.
And it helps with your immune system.
Immune system and cancer.
And cancer.
And cancer.
Yeah, breast cancer, colon cancer, prostate cancer, lung cancers.
All the solid cancers, the solid tumor cancers.
Then I mean, especially those of us in the northern hemisphere, but population where a lot of African Americans live, how come this is not widely reported? Like the knockers on the door. We need you to get your vitamin D levels.
Never heard this.
Nobody is having this conversation with the
Correct.
community.
Not in our communities.
Not in our community.
The thing is, it's not in any communities.
Yeah.
If you don't go to a doctor who has been trained to do this, and I'm not knocking anybody, but if you don't go to a doctor who's trained to do it, he'll say that, you're within the normal range, but not normal for optimum health. And let me just say one more thing about this. The multivitamin, this is the same thing. The minimum amount is designed to prevent disease but not optimal health. The same thing with the multivitamin. You get just enough vitamins to prevent scurvy, beriberi, but not optimum health. We're not
That's the
talking, it's just prevention. Prevention and optimal health are two different things.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's good.
Okay, so we've gotten through this first wave of COVID. The vaccine has happened now. about 13 months later. No, more than 13. We've been in a year and 4 months or so.
Yeah.
Because you were with us in March of 2020, and thank God the whole congregation made it over to the other side of this. But this don't seem to be going away.
Well, the problem is that when we had the opportunity, viruses mutate.
True.
They're going to mutate, and that's what happened. When we had a large group of people who, as it's their right not to take the vaccine, it is their right. This is America. We can't force them to. They are now susceptible to this mutation. And the mutation is 3 times as virulent, and it attacks you, and the symptoms come on a lot faster. And as you were saying earlier, Bishop, it's affecting younger people now.
Yes, it is.
And now we're starting to get that rise again in this group of unvaccinated patients. And it's not, you have a right not to take it, but when you don't take it and you get the disease, now the healthcare workers, they have to take care of you. Now they're going to take care of you, but you know better. And this is the first disease where healthcare workers are dying.
Wow.
Doing their job. Now, this also, even if you're vaccinated, you can get it, but you won't be hospitalized and you won't die from it. This is the beauty of being vaccinated.
Since you've been, and we're not going to ask you how old you are because you're not going to tell us anyway.
Absolutely not.
He's not going to tell us.
Who was president?
But is it?
Sorry.
No. Because your father was a doctor as well, and I know your father helped out with my brother's case, which we've gotten some good news about that as
really?
well. Yes.
20 years now.
After 20-something years, they got some good news, and they're talking about wanting to settle.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very good.
So that's
good.
we had to go back to your father's work. We had to get your father's scribble. We had to get the
Right.
his father was. How many generations of doctors have there been in?
Well, my father and his brothers. One of his was a doctor. One is a dentist. No, two were dentists. One was a doctor. And in those days, my aunt, since she's the smartest of all of them, a woman couldn't go to medical school.
Right.
So she she's a professor at Columbia, and they have a small medical clinic named after her. Before that, we had the herbalist for North Carolina was my aunt.
Okay.
So it goes back quite a long way.
Oh, so you're carrying a lot of secret knowledge here, Dr. Davidson.
Oh, no.
That ginger came down through that pipeline. You're going to keep us around for a long time. Is this the worst that you've seen in a pandemic here in America? When you think
Let's put it this: yes. And as a doctor, I've never been exposed to it. The pandemics that struck this country happened before I was born.
Yeah.
And those people aren't around anymore. And this is new for everyone.
Yeah.
This was new. If you live in Europe or Africa or not Europe, but one of the underserved countries, you're used to pandemics.
Yeah.
But here, I don't think that we actually thought it could happen to us.
And I think that's what's happened with us as Americans is that, we're Americans, this can't happen to us. That happened to people like over there that don't have, that's not civilized, or people that don't have clean drinking water. And I think that this is like a real wake-up call to us as Americans. It's like, I was looking at, someone sent me something this morning of, and this is coming out of the faith-based community, where people are pretty much, mocking the virus and calling it a lack of faith to get vaccinated and all that kind of stuff. And then they, unfortunately, they had a death in the community.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And, it's like a real wake-up call. Like, we have not brushed against death like other nations have.
No.
And, think about it, there has not been a war on the shore since the Civil War. There hasn't been, rampant diseases, starvation here. I mean, we have not seen that here. And I think with this here, I think we're slowly getting the message that there might be something seriously going on here. But when I talked to one funeral director, he said they had the bodies in the funeral home stacked right next to each other.
Oh my God,
They had
yes.
no room for them.
Yes.
The morgues, there was no room in the morgues. They were keeping them in refrigerated trucks outside. And we never heard those kind of stories before until now. And then the media kind of shield us from actually seeing those type of things.
But here in New York, it was there. We could walk by Mount Sinai. We could walk by the hospitals. We could go to the hospitals in Queens and see the refrigerator trucks, see the people piled up in there. You go to the hospital, all the cases were canceled. Routine surgery was canceled. It was. It never has this happened before in this country.
It was the first.
And people are polarized. They're making medicine and science something other than science. It could be a political issue. You're right, I'm wrong. And it's not about this. This is things that are based on science, both white, black, Asian, Jewish, Republicans, Democrats recognized this is a disease. It has it affects the rich, the poor equally.
Yes.
The black, white, everybody gets it equally. But someone didn't get the message. it's some plot. It's not a plot. It's real. Oh, it's from China. Who cares where it started? It's
Right.
here now.
It's here, right, and it's affecting.
Let's not get involved with pointing fingers.
Right. Are you hearing from patients about different new strands that are coming up now, or people that are getting?
Well, I don't see it, but healthcare workers in the hospitals are seeing it now. And in those unvaccinated areas of the country, the doctors are getting upset now. They're saying, look, we've got to do something because we're out of beds. Everywhere else it's going away, and it's coming out. They're not equipped to handle these type of diseases. If someone really sick comes, they have an ICU, but they transfer you to a central medical center.
True.
Well, those centers are being filled up now, and now we have doctors and nurses or caregivers, people who work who aren't vaccinated and are being exposed to this. This secondary wave it's very serious.
Yes.
All right. Well, listen, we're talking to Dr. Davidson. Now, today you have treated us here with, tell us a little bit about what is the Myers cocktail.
Myers cocktail was, Dr. Myers, was in the early 20s and 30s, came up with a combination of vitamins and minerals that could treat a host of medical issues at one time. It's a wonderful platform for adding other things where you can get your vitamin B, C, magnesium, high doses of vitamin C, dexpanthenol, which is good for the hair and the skin.
Oh, wow. Is there hope?
But by taking it in, it gives by giving it intravenously, it goes right to the target organs. When you take something orally, you get the second pass effect. It first is metabolized to the liver and then goes out to the bloodstream. That's the beauty of it. We can add alpha lipoic acid, which is amazing.
Yes.
We're regrowing liver tissue, a lot of documentation, fighting cancer, causing tissue to grow. I can't say enough about alpha lipoic acid.
No, is that
You can take that also
Intravenously, exactly.
Now, that is what you was talking to me about?
Yes,
Alfred?
yes. I had mentioned to you that you may want to consider incorporating that as well as taking the Myers cocktail because of all the benefits that it has, and it works intercellular. It goes directly to the cells, to the organs that it need, and it's also considered anti-aging.
Oh my God, yes.
Well, is she one of your students?
No, I'm her student. Fantastic.
Go way back.
So is this something that we should incorporate as part of our?
Oh yes, vitamin drips are essential because of the American diet. Our colons, we really don't know what's being absorbed and not absorbed.
Wow.
And by getting it intravenously, it's going to go to the target organs, to the cells themselves.
Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, I get my Myers cocktail once a month. So people, if they want to get a Myers cocktail from you that are local here, you're in New York
City.
You're in New York City. How can they make contact with you?
Please just call me.
Call you.
I'm old-fashioned doctor. I answer my own phone.
And you still make house calls?
Yeah.
I know you made a house call today.
Yes.
Let's give that a hand. A doctor that still makes house calls.
Love that.
I'll tell you a story. My dad, I made house calls until I was 13. And to show you how things have changed, a house call then, including the house call, an antibiotic, or, there were only 20 medicines then, was $5. Mm-hmm. And things have changed a lot.
Yeah, they sure have. Yeah. They're not $5 now.
No.
But when you look at it, Dr. Davidson, I mean, you've been a real great asset to the
thank you.
community here.
Yes.
And it's helping people too. What would you say about people, because that says like diabetes. When this first came out, they told those of you that's on HIV medication, make sure you stay on your medication. Then they told us that if you had diabetes, this could be areas of risk. What would you say to people that may be listening to us right now that may be having some of these type of compromised type of systems?
The issue is that the medication you're taking, let's take type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, they are only symptomatic relief. You don't urinate at night all the time, you don't have headaches, you don't have blurred visions, you can go to work, but the damage continues. The damage continues. If you go to your doctor and you said you have high blood pressure, he takes it, it's okay. He says, oh, you're doing fine. No, you're not. You're following the regime, but the damage is going on. And if you have diabetes, the doctor will come in and say, you need to be on a diet, you need to do this, you need to do exercise, and it's always mañana. We'll do it tomorrow. We'll do it tomorrow. But these things are lessening your life. When you have these diseases and you get into your 60s, you've retired, you've got a beautiful home, and you have a good pension or a savings, that's when it really hits you. That's when it hits you, because the damage goes on. Your arteries are being clogged, your nerves are being affected, your mental health is being affected, the damage goes on. People ask about, there are all type of diets out now, but I'll never forget, I applied for a license I got in North Carolina, and they had, they asked the doctors a question, they wanted to meet you, and the board asked me, well, what's the treatment for type 2 diabetes? And I said, diet and exercise. They all were like, whoa. They were blown away, because that is the answer, diet and exercise.
Diet and exercise. Diet
and exercise are fundamental to being a healthy, productive human being. When you have a great diet and exercise, you're able to work at a higher level of efficiency for a longer period of time. That's where it comes in.
Well, the first time I've heard, when I was coming to you, I was getting blood work done. I was 248 pounds when I came to Dr. Davison, and I got off the scale. I said, there's got to be a mistake, so I took my ring and watch off and got back on it. You remember that? Elder Melina, why you don't be laughing? I said, there's something wrong with the scale. I said, it's in the watch. I took my
belt.
And then I said, this can't be. I took the belt off, and I think at one point I said, let me take my pants off too.
God.
You know, and the scale moved maybe about 2 ounces. But the thing about it is that I looked at that, and that's when I said, okay, I'm going to have to get this weight off. And you know, Dr. Davison said some real harsh things to me. He says, listen, he says, if you do not get this under control, and I was 50 years old then, this is like 12 years ago. He said, if you don't get this under control, you're not going to be around here long. He said, you're going to have a stroke, you're going to have heart disease, you're going to have diabetes. And then I think at that time, my numbers was coming in as pre-diabetic. I'd never forget, I was seeing numbers like 100, 110, and my medical doctor would say, "Oh, you're okay." Wow! And Dr. Davis said, "No, this is not good. You're on your way." And we worked on it, and I'm gonna tell you, it was work. It was work getting those numbers down. It was work getting the weight down, but it was also work in getting that blood. I never forget. That's how I learned about the A1C.
Hemoglobin A1C, right?
Yeah, I mean that number really tells all. And that number was always like it was over like it was hit at one point like 6.1. You know, those type of numbers that you don't want your A1C at. And I didn't. But going to a regular doctor that says, "Oh, you're okay. You're doing good for your age."
Right.
But
this is what to be expected.
The anti-aging work that Dr. Davison was doing, he was saying, this is not good, not for where you're headed. And so I had to work on getting the A1C down, and so that I get all of those out of those zones. What would you say to people about the importance of looking at your numbers?
Well, let's take your hemoglobin A1C, and what does that mean? The hemoglobin A1C is, if you get your blood sugar today, it might be normal or it might be high. oh, it's normal today, or it's a little high today. A1C looks at your blood sugar over 3 months. This is what's been happening on the average every 3 months. That's why it's such value. The number is an indication of the percentage of red blood cells. Red blood cells carry oxygen to the organs. The percentage of red blood cells that no longer are carrying oxygen but have a sugar molecule attached to them. That's hemoglobin A. Made simply, that's what hemoglobin A1C is.
Wow. So sugar could really be a real killer in our diet
Yes.
today. Elder Valina, what you say about, think about that?
Sugar's the devil.
Sugar's the devil.
Got to stay
Not
away
good.
from it at all costs. And, at the end of the day, every time you take that little packet and you start or putting it into your drink, you have to think about what does it look like down the road. When you're in the when a person's in that bed and they have all those tubes and needles and doctors and the machines beeping, you're gonna be thinking about that. It's not worth
Well
it.
put.
But sugars is something of our foods. I was surprised when I was listening to an audio about they were dealing with food, but they were talking about how all of a sudden, because Americans used to be skinny.
Yes.
There used to be the skinny, it's like in school, when we went to school, it was always there was always, you picked on there was one fat kid in the class and you went to school, right? Now today, it's one skinny person in the class. It's like it reversed.
Kids are huge.
Yeah, but when we all went to school, we were all thin. I mean, everybody in my class, I'm 62. Everyone was thin in the school. It was the bony girl, the bony boy.